Hello and welcome to RTE Oireachtas for the Dáil. Okay, hello and welcome to the stream. We are starting tonight with a very absent Dáil here, but we do actually have two people on the opposition side for Labour. We also have one for the Green Party, obviously Bo, their leader. Social Democrats and Fine Gael turning up in 10 seats, I believe that is, out of their, I think, 13. I will also mention that, no, 14, I apologise. I will also mention that finally we are getting a co-presenter, the lovely Neve, who will be joining us later on tonight. So it won't just be me waffling away the entire time, hopefully. We begin today with question time. Again, quite a few cats. I don't know why this one's larger than all the others, and what there's quite a few cats. I don't know why Leah's brung them into the chamber. I will bring you up in just a moment by going to wait for the Dáil to get in full swing, and then I'll bring you up. Leader of the opposition is delivering a statement right now, I believe. If not, a question. Oh, she's announced her resignation that was sent to the chairman. She will no longer be the leader of the Labour Party. Which, I mean, I will just say right off the bat, this is a very big change. The largest opposition is now changing leader. So this could actually mean quite a big difference for you as an Irish citizen. I do wonder who will actually take up her mantle. Lots of people would say that Labour hasn't done very well, as she's pointing out here. But she's also pointing out the level of toxicity, something that both Oscar and multiple other leaders have also pointed out, which is a fair concern to waver. She continues on. And again, this is quite a big change. The Labour leader is resigning. She will be gone and no longer leading Labour. I mean, I'm trying to think of people who might step up. I mean, Wilberforce, he may have been seen as a potential candidate, but he's no longer a part of the party. I mean, I will quickly take a look at the Oireachtas spreadsheet here, because I myself am very interested to see who will take up leadership, especially for a party that is quite large. They were expected to get quite a lot of seats in the previous general election, so this time they could be gaining even more. So it is a very good position. Well, to some it may be a very good position. We now begin. We now go to leaders' questions. I mean, just taking a look at the spreadsheet real quick here. I believe I was in Uith the chat. I always struggle with his pronunciation, but he is a very prominent figure in Ireland, I'd say. At least I've seen him quite a bit. There's also William J. Perry, who I wouldn't say is the most well known, but he's definitely been a very big voice within the Labour Party, especially for debates and such. I've seen him up here on RTE quite a few times. Anywho, Deputy Bo is raising a question right now. After she has, I will bring her up on the stage. She begins thanking the Clan Comla. She says that she loves the overwhelming confidence in herself to be the leader of the opposition. This has been something she's gone on for quite a while now. I believe it started 2 weeks ago or a week ago. I apologise if I've gotten that wrong. But she did start saying that she was the de facto leader of the opposition, being the only one who was actually turning up to the Dáil. I will say for a two-seat party, their attendance has been very hit and miss. I know that they did have another person, but I've just seen they replaced them, so I can't speak for this person. But it doesn't seem that they filed an absence. But they did actually attend last session, which I didn't notice. Her question was directed to Taoiseach about the PFG. I didn't quite catch what she said. I was too busy looking at the spreadsheet there. Can Cumla should be calling upon Taoiseach, but she's currently paused. Stopped in her tracks there for a moment. Okay, I will now be bringing up Bo. Hello,
Oh,
Bo.
sorry.
No, it's alright.
I was just looking at my notes, pulling up for my next question.
Oh, so you do have another question after this. I wasn't able to quite catch it, so could you quickly repeat what your question was to Taoiseach there?
My question was, why wasn't his PFG in Irish? You know, if I looked at his Trello and he said that he wanted to use as much Irish as possible, I couldn't actually find an Irish version for this programme for government. And I do believe he criticised the last government for doing it when he hasn't done it at all. I think he's a right hypocrite. He needs to go, like the Labour leader, and it's time for me as Taoiseach. End of.
You have quite a lot. I thought you were the self-proclaimed leader of the opposition.
I am the de facto leader of the opposition as Labour have failed to hold the government to account. So now I'm actually stepping in as Taoiseach, de facto Taoiseach ASAP after this poor government, you know. And empty promise after empty promise, he cannot deliver. I know him and his TDs do is lie and attack the other parties.
And this has been an issue you've brought up quite a lot. And I would say, if you just look at the benches here, you can always see the government somewhat heckling. I do think there is an issue with the opposition benches as well, but with the government being such a large force and a very important part in the Oireachtas, they do definitely heckle quite a lot. However, some people might argue that heckling is able to get the point across, or these small little jabs are quite important small snippets of information. And you yourself have committed in them. Why do you think it's not okay for them to do it?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I was just pulling up my thingy.
No, you're fine. I was just asking. Oh, you are giving a question right now, so I'll wait for you to do that. So whilst Bo gives her question, the Kian Komla is watering her cats. I didn't know. That must be why that one's grown so large, giving her too much water. But now Bo is asking if the Taoiseach can reassure the Chamber that he will utilise the Spotlight Award. The Spotlight Award is in regards to business. I am not sure when it got set up, but it was used to highlight businesses or media companies. But yes, the question I quickly gave, do you believe that heckling in some forms is alright, or do you think it's outright bad, and if so, why?
I'm very much opposed to the heckling from the government. You know, they have repeatedly told me to shut up or put up, and I'm telling them that they're wrong, and they have not. It is not in the public's interest that they start heckling me. However, you know, the government are clueless. They don't even know what the Spotlight Award is. No, they've created a scheme that the Journalist of the Week is a scheme that is set up bad. Why? I don't understand.
Sorry, could you go more in depth as to why it's bad?
It's bad because we need to focus on business, not necessarily media. Business is the main issue. Hold on, let me.
So I'll give you a moment to ask your question, then you can repeat.
He's ignored the Spotlight Award for the Journalist of the Week programme.
The self-proclaimed de facto leader of the opposition is asking, and Taoiseach, how I believe if he'd forgotten about the journalism spotlight awards, and that he doesn't see she doesn't see enough sustainable growth from the new scheme he has proposed. But the question I was asking you to dwell on: why do you think the execution of the government's journalist scheme is bad? Why do you think it's bad in general? Could you give us more insight onto that?
Well, he's actually crashed the media. He's actually crashed the media sector. Hold on. Let me just answer this last question, and then I can sit down.
Don't worry, do take your time.
The check. Hold on. Feel sorry.
So I'm just quickly going to get rid of these timers. I mean, in regards to some of the things the government has been doing, I will mention that they have kept up with their foreign affairs. I do get pinged quite a lot with their foreign affairs.
You know, he only goes to these meetings for 20 minutes, talks about limited issues. He went to the White House. You know, apparently he missed out the part where, you know, he was having a lovely chat. But, you know, what we need to be focusing on is the real issues, you know, activity. What is he doing to these other countries? Is he speaking to them about how we can improve our activity? Or is he just doing it for the leveling Ireland's placement on the global stage? When we're actually domestically, we are really inactive. And he said he would renew it. He hasn't done it. He's broken a promise. They are the progress stallers. We are the progress movers. You know, we hosted a papal visit that encouraged more people to get on Monaghan. And, you know, I was part of that delegation that welcomed the Pope. And, you know, didn't see Oscar there. All I did see was Oscar and two other nuns threatened to kidnap the Pope. So he's not really a progress kind of say. He's more like a progress staller.
Sorry, I would like to quickly ask, you have criticised the government for not bringing activity, but what has the opposition been doing to bring activity? I'm not saying that they should be bringing up activity solely, because it is obviously the responsibility of both the opposition and the government to try and bring activity. But can you say anything the opposition has done to try and improve activity via events, surgeries, etc.?
During the boycott, I proposed legislation. Job Centre Ireland was a great programme that would have boosted activity, as it would have allowed people to join a variety of different sectors within Ireland, most of them in-game businesses, which would have significantly grown. However, due to the threat the threats of it being voted down and not having enough support in the opposition to propose such legislation, I did have to withdraw the bill. Unfortunately, it's sad that the government won't work with me on this issue. You know, they are just insulting it when I've done my research, I've put all the good work and I've put all the vision into the bill. They just need to eye the bill. So I don't see why the government aren't eyeing the bill. And they're just gaslighting the Irish people.
So the American people.
No, the Irish. Sorry, it's because he visited. It's because he visited America.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I will agree that sometimes shooting down bills, yes, you did try, but it's also, I mean, have there been anything else your party specifically has been trying to do to boost activity? Yes, you can introduce bills, but have you tried doing it in any other way?
You see, my party, personally, we don't have the big enough mandate to actually be responsible for activity. Um, you know, we only have at least like under 20 votes. So in a community that is significantly large with a turnout of over 200, I believe, we don't have the mandate to actually propose anything at this current time. But we have been, you know, committed to Job Centre Ireland, the Spotlight Award, and other business that will grow our business sector. That it's all about in-game businesses. I don't see why. I don't see other areas. I think it's just should be business. Business. If business is blooming, you know, the whole country benefits from
So
that.
what about public
What
services?
So that's a really good point. So in the Department of Business, Job Centre Ireland is that core pillar that will eventually lead people into different public services and different sectors. And that is the main issue. If we start with business, we can have a nice, strong, and stable economy that jobs across all different aspects within public service, like the Garda or the National Ambulance Service, people can have these jobs, engage, and it can grow. Oh, look, hold on. Can I just point out something? The deputy, Jackie R. Westbrook, former Green Party, Catherine Leach, has just, you know, left the chamber. Not even 17 minutes in.
So what part are they in now?
She's a social democrat.
Oh, oh yeah, I see that. Um,
Mm.
I would like to quickly ask for your opinions on the leader of. Oh, you're asking a question.
Yeah, you can ask a question. I've got this one planned out. So.
Okay. Well, I was just going to ask, with the leaving, well, the announced resignation of the leader of the opposition, Rachel, who was also the leader of the Labour Party, do you have anyone you hope to see? Do you have anyone you think will try and go for leadership?
I hope none of them run, to be fair. I think that party's so boring. No offense. I think, you know, they messed up the country when they decided to side with the Social Democrats during the election debate and started Tweedledum and Tweedledee at me. I think they've really messed up the country. You know, they're inactive TDs. I only have one TD to worry about. They have at least 4 to 5, and they still can't get them here. Look at I'm the only one member of the opposition here. I'm the one that's active. The rest, you know, they couldn't give a damn. They couldn't. It's more about the role and the responsibility than anything. It's just not. It's just not what you do if you've got over 40 votes in the election. And I just think they're messing up the whole country. That we can't even hold the government to account because of them. Even in the upper chamber, they have they have quite a large member count. We could literally hold a majority in there and criticize all the government bills. However, we don't see. Hold on. Um, Customs and practice it. Hold on, sorry, I'm just typing out. My copy and paste wouldn't work.
No, you're fine. Just looking at some other aspects of the duel here. Um, oh, the cat's gotten bigger. I was just looking at the committee's page, and it seems to be quite outdated. Um, I know I'm not sure what the government's mandate. I'm pretty sure they do want to remove committees entirely. Um, what will if the Green Party were to get into power? Because it's starting. It's not general election time yet, but it's starting to roll around to those times. Does the Green Party have any real plan for what they're going to do with committees? Because lots of people are arguing that they're very ineffective. No one uses them. In fact, on the spreadsheet, they're not even updated. So, what will you be trying to do for these committees?
Well, we need active TDs. We need to elect a chairperson. We need to actually host sessions. Um, Hold on. Yeah, we need to actually host them. I don't see what's wrong with committees. I personally served on great committees that gave me, hold on, great insight into business. That's why I became the Minister for Business. It was the honour of my life to become the Minister of Business because I flourished business. Now the government has destroyed it. They've crashed the economy. And they've spent funds 3 times up, and they've said they're cutting red tape. The only red tape is it's the door, and it says Government of Ireland under Oscar O'Sullivan. So
Um,
that's the only
well, I would like to
question.
quickly ask, with your plan to make TDs more active, well, to say that you need more active TDs, people might actually want to turn up to these committees and get elected for the chairperson, etc. If they did actually have any powers. Do you think you'd give committees any powers? And if so, what would those powers look like?
Um, it's just basic standards. I think each chair has the right to uphold basic standards. Announced to the House, to the Chamber
I will wait for you to
when
ask your
we.
question.
Oh, oh, that. Oh my God, what's it called again?
I will quickly point out, committees have been used quite a lot, like where we've seen their implementation in real life. Committees are very important. They do have a lot of influence and get to oversee quite a lot of things within, at least for my example, within the UK. I think committees do get to say a lot, like just judicial appointment committees, etc. I'm not sure what Ireland has, but I do know that committees can be quite important. But as how I've put it is committees, as I've said in as a Shanadori, committees have often had their bills, well, had their opinions sometimes read out, and it never really changed the impact of the bill. It never changed how they would view the bill. So people would say that you need to give them the powers to remove bills or get other powers. So I would like to ask if the Deputy Bow has any ideas of what she would do for things like that.
I don't think. I don't personally. I don't. I think the bill should go under scrutiny before it goes into the main chamber by the committee. But it comes down to availability. But it would significantly. It could probably delay government progress, which I could see if enemies argue. Not enemies. The government argued against it, but I think it's the right time because activity is low in the chamber. I'm the only opposition TD ready to stand up against this government, the government that has crashed the economy, spent the reserves 3 times over, and who have completely destroyed business confidence. As a business owner, I don't feel like this government is completely supporting me. I feel they're just, plaguing and what's the word? Misleading the business people because they actually don't have any business experience themselves. One of my first questions to Scripted said was, "What businesses have you owned?" He couldn't answer that. Oscar O'Sullivan, the Taoiseach, has a media company that only boosts his own ego. The Ministers for Communities wasn't even announced on the government channel. So when you look at these government ministers, they are crazy to believe that they are what the people want. I
So,
think it's the right
oh,
time. I'm going to say it here now. I think it's time for a general election, and I think it's time to elect Oscar O'Sullivan out of office and into a job where he belongs, in the gutter, in the bin.
Bo, I think
Maybe
I,
maybe deported back into Rwanda.
Right, well, I
I
will quickly interrupt everyone there. I am very happy to announce we finally have Neve Clark, former Taoiseach and leader of the Green Party here. Yes, it was the Green Party, sorry. Um, it's a great addition to the team, and if you'd like to quickly introduce yourself.
I'm Neve Clark, former Taoiseach, former
Can you speak up? I can't hear
yeah,
you.
wait one sec. Former Taoiseach, former well, I'm still a revolutionary educator, TV personality, What haven't I done would really be the question. And I'm here now on RTE to be impartial and to interview. So, Bo, a moment ago you just called for a general election. Considering the Green Party's shockingly bad performance in the last general election and the overall lack of change in the party and its running, do you think you would gain even less seats?
No, I think we would at least stay with 2 seats. I believe it's the rat time to boot Oscar out. He's Delulu. His ministers are even more Delulu, and they are literally lying to the people of the Republic.
Okay, Bo, but
Hold on,
some
hold on. I'm speaking, Madam Vice President. Their government, one of their TDs actually left at 17 minutes in, then got told to come back in just for the attendance picture. But it in Texas we say all hat, no cattle. As you
Okay,
know,
I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there. But in regards to activity, you have 2 seats compared to the government's. It's more than 10.
14, it's 14
Yet,
seats.
yet you cannot fill your 2 seats. So do you believe you're in a position to talk about
well,
activity?
that's not true,
I will
and I
quickly
would
mention
Well,
ask.
she
you may
has
have
filled her
you.
seats, but they have been repeatedly not showing up to the
Yeah,
sessions.
you have
That
someone technically holding the seat, but they're not sat on the bench today.
that's
Do you think
not
it's that hard to get one more person to come sit beside you?
Well, that is actually not true. The person that my TD is actually busy right now. I respect the fact that my TD is not here. She's got probably better things to do than listening to this government fill the people of this country with lies. However, I'm the only opposition TD here. I don't see why you're not attacking other parties. Just because,
Because
just
the other
because,
parties are not
just
up.
because,
The other parties are not here
just
judging
because
the government's activity, whilst you can't fill the only other seat you
I
have.
I'm the only party leader here that's actually willing to go on to a broadcast and actually tell the truth. The Taoiseach can't do that. The Taoiseach can't do that. The Fianna Fáil leader can't even show up to the Dáil because he likes to sit in the upper chamber, as he knows he can't get scrutinised by the government, as we have the majority in the upper chamber. That's why he doesn't sit in the lower chamber. Rachel's resigned because she's failed to hold the government to account. You know, she is as useless as a chocolate teacup. She's completely delulu. When you when you look at the Social Democrats and the Labour Party, it's the same party, just a different format, and that's just the way it's going to be now on if at this rate.
And Bo, if you will, tomorrow a bill will be a motion will be heard to vacate the office of Kirloch, I believe, in the Shannon. What are your opinions on that, and how will you be instructing your Shinadori to vote?
That is disgusting. The two members that are proposed there are just sad that they didn't get the position that they have been, eye-watering for the last term. They're just jealous, and I think
If I
they need to.
may, I will quickly point out that I already announced that I wouldn't be running again, and that I'm actually quite happy Mr. Sunday
Okay.
became
Oh,
Caherloch,
The
but I
question
think,
so why have you tabled a motion to remove him?
well, I probably shouldn't answer in terms
No,
of
no, but
RTE, but
imagine.
I will quickly point out, I believe that the mandate of the Shannon wasn't entirely agreed upon there, because first the clerk cut our debate short, which meant we couldn't properly discuss it, and there were two presidential appointments, Shanadori, who could have been swayed by either argument, and that argument was cut short. We couldn't keep discussing it. because the clerks wanted to move on with the session, which I think was something that shouldn't happen. I also think not enough of the government and the opposition. There weren't enough of them there. There's currently a vacant seat from the Green Party. There hasn't been enough people who showed up last Saturday to actually properly understand whether we want Mr. Sunday as Cahirloch.
Okay, and why do you, not speaking as an RT presenter, not speaking as a member of the Social Democrats, because by technicality, the Seanad is not bound by party, although you do belong to parties, but why do you think he's not fit to be Cahirloch?
Can you just focus on me?
I
I'm
will
not
quickly
speaking
say,
to you, but
I do want to quickly get past this. I think he has the ability to to be the Speaker of our chamber, but I don't think that the entire chamber was heard in his election. And I also
okay,
believe there are
but
people who can do better jobs than him.
would you say that when the vote on Dylan's impeachment from the Supreme Court was heard, and the agenda of the Seanad was changed, and the members of the opposition were ejected from the chamber, that was corruption also, and manipulating the due process.
Yeah.
This was a fair point to raise. However, I will point out these people
Because what
did
you've
attend.
said here is the clerks once again have been seen as to abuse their power to cut your speaking time short, and then earlier to change the agenda to force the impeachment hearing to be heard, whilst the members of the opposition in the Seanad were filibustering.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember them cutting the clerks
Because
cutting them off. However, no, I will quickly. I do want to respond to this. I will say quickly the Dáil has adjourned, but in regards to the session where multiple members of the opposition were ejected, these people had showed up and given their opinion, and yes, they're allowed to do that, but they also disrupted the operations of our chamber. They did.
how did they do that? By rising and speaking when they were
It
meant
wasn't.
to?
I cannot entirely remember because it's been 2 weeks now. But I think when you look at what they've done, personally, I can't say I like Checkmate that much. I believe he's not the most. I don't think he's a very nice person in some cases, but when I've seen him in the chamber, he hasn't. He's very often heckled during the sessions. He doesn't remain silent. He doesn't keep quiet when it's not his turn to speak. He constantly speaks over the presiding officer. He would stand when the presiding officer was standing. And I think that the ejections should have been done sooner, really, because they were disgracing the chamber. And I really do believe that Checkmill and Sunday, on that session specifically, really needed to get that act together.
But do you not think that it was convenient that the members opposing the impeachment of Dylan were the members ejected, whilst other members would have spoken out of turn?
No,
other members may have heckled, yet it was only them who were ejected.
Other opposition members were present, and they did also, who were very much against it, and still. I mean, sorry, I'm trying to formulate the point properly. There were opposition TDs on that session. In fact, there was. Oh, never mind. But there were opposition TD, Senadori, in that session who were not ejected and did oppose the impeachment.
Okay, and it was Eamon in the chair for that, presiding over that session,
Yes.
wasn't it? Okay, yeah. I think that's all I have to say on that matter, but I see Leah's in the audience with her hand up.
Don't bring her up. Don't bring her up.
Well, Bo, if she comes up, you're down, so I don't think you have anything else to say, Bo.
I know. I think you need to ask him more questions about, business. Business.
All you seem to talk about is business, but
That's because it's the pillar of the country. If we
I
have
don't think it is, because business is actually quite irrelevant.
No, if you actually look, business actually grows jobs. This government thing.
Yet the jobs that are important, the jobs in the public services, still remain vacant, and
That's
quote unquote the quote unquote bold employment campaign that the government claims to have launched is not bold because it's not different. It's not different to the other campaign. I'm air quoting campaigns to employ public servants. It is the exact same. It's the message in the chat. There is no standout or flamboyancy to this quote unquote campaign.
That's because they're lazy and they haven't even done the job yet. If you look at their PFG in business.
And Bo, what would your party do differently?
Okay, well, we've been a really good advocate for Job Centre Ireland. I'm going to say it again.
Okay, what is Job Centre Ireland? Explain the premise of Job Centre Ireland.
Ireland is an agency that offers advice and guidance to people to get them back into work, into specifically the public or private sector, but it could work for public service. Did I say? Yeah.
And how would this encourage people to utilize this system when people clearly don't want to have public service jobs? Because the campaigns have been going since the establishments of these services, yet you think that the job centre will fix the disinterest in these positions.
Well, how did you get into this position as a deputy RTE presenter?
How did I get here?
So I don't believe that's important.
How did you apply?
Relevant to the question. I did not apply. I DM'd Kamala, and I asked to put on my own show. She said yes. And then I asked to be on here. She said yes, which is far more simple than going through a job centre and far more effective.
But people are not always going to be able to DM people. Some people.
I think they're more able to DM someone than join a job centre.
No, if it's actually rooted into the business, they will eventually join because they want to bring in activity and growth to the country.
Okay, but you've said this again, but people clearly don't want to bring that into the country because these positions have been vacant for so long and people aren't applying and haven't been for so long.
I also want to mention the activity of businesses. Just because they have people doesn't mean they're active. Currently, I see not a single business being able to operate in our games. How can we blame the government for that?
We cannot, but we can blame the government for not using innovative ideas to make public services interesting. And it's not just the failing of this government, it might be the failing of every government before it. Because the question is now, why have people lost interest in public services and how can we change that?
Well, as former Taoiseach, you really did a good job at engaging the public service, didn't you?
I did a good job at engaging the public in hating me. So if that counts, yeah.
I love how you're commentating on, engagement. But
yeah, I am commentating on engagement because whilst things haven't changed since I was Taoiseach, you are the one running, not me. And you are the one, clearly, who can't answer the question.
I'm the one.
Do you have a plan, or are you running to be Taoiseach without a plan for everything? Because you need a plan for everything.
I will say it's not even been a month just yet since. Actually, no, it might have been. It has
been a month.
It's been just a month then.
Yesterday was the month, I believe. Okay, what is your plan?
Okay, my plan is all about rewards. We need people into public. Rewards such as the Spotlight Award, which was neglected under this government, and the
Spotlight Award has been reinitiated.
It's not. No, I'm afraid
the Journalist Spotlight Award.
That is not the thing.
I have seen that being used. I have seen people awarded that award.
The Spotlight Award was for business. That Journalist of the Week is not the Spotlight Award. It is just simply a copy of the Journalist of the Month scheme from the United Kingdom.
And how are you going to give a Spotlight Award to a business when businesses do not operate in our game?
It's not about. There's different aspects of businesses.
You've got businesses?
No. You've got in-game businesses, and you've got games. You've got businesses that operate on Discord. Surely, I don't think you're You're not a business expert, I'm afraid, Neve.
I went Taoiseach, and I've never once heard of any businesses needing anything from me. Yet you run on this campaign that business is so important, yet it isn't.
It is.
It's the community, it's public services, and you have no plan for engaging people with them. You keep talking about private sector businesses when that's not where the problem lies. The government should not be worried about private employees in a in a nation where we don't have an economy. Okay, we don't have trade, we don't do stuff like that. That's not on Roblox. We should be worried about the lack of Garda, the lack of ambulance paramedics, the lack of a fire service. And the lack of IDF soldiers, administrators, anyone. No one is interested in that field. And I want you to tell me your plan to change that.
Well, as I've said before you interrupted me, you are not a business expert. You've never owned
That is not the question. I am asking
I-
you a question. You are not answering it. This is not about me. It's about you and your party's plan.
No. I am answering your question. You've never run a business, so you don't actually know what it's like for a business to operate, okay?
Okay.
And
Once again, you're reflecting this back onto me. Mention my name again. You're going down because you are incapable of answering the question.
try me. You know, you're a failed.
Can
Dan,
we
put
calm
Bo
this down?
down.
I would like
You
to hear
couldn't
Bo's
deliver
answers.
your
Hold on.
business pledges. No, you couldn't deliver on the
No,
business
will you
pledges.
No,
answer
Bo,
the
for
hold
question?
on.
Will you
Right.
answer the question?
You failed this country,
Bo,
and you
and
deserve.
yet
Okay,
again,
Bo,
you
Bo,
have
this
contradicted your...
Bo, this
No,
isn't
you
what it's
you
about.
failed this country.
Right, I'll quickly pause you both there. I will mention this is not what it's about. We're not arguing whether Neve did a good job or not. We are arguing whether how businesses can operate in Ireland, and also how we're going to get people in the public services. So what is your plan, Bo, for the public services and to get people in there?
As I've said, you know, I supported the government on their recruitment fairs. They've actually not even done that. So they don't even care about the domestic side of Ireland. You know, they've said that they're committed to renewal and renewing our Monaghan, but they haven't actually done anything, okay? They are literally the most incompetent government after Neve's government, you know.
You were in that government. You were the Taoiseach of the last government. Why didn't you act on these things when you were in government for one term? Why didn't you do anything then?
When I was Taoiseach, my portfolio was in foreign affairs. Thank you very much.
Bo, if you... Okay, Bo.
I was in...
I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there. I'm stopping you there. In your term in government, you had 3 portfolios. You were Minister for Foreign Affairs. Wait, were you? Am I right? Am I wrong? Correct me.
I was Minister of Foreign Affairs halfway through.
You were Minister of Foreign Affairs, you were Minister of Business, and you were Taoiseach. If you believe that businesses have crashed just because of this government, why didn't you build businesses stronger and put the provisions in place so they would not crash no matter the change of government?
Well, that is simply not true. When I was...
I didn't give you a true or false question. I asked you, why didn't you build businesses stronger?
I'm answering your very crap question. When I was Minister of Business, you should have known as the Taoiseach that I led a campaign to recruit more business registrars.
The campaign that is the exact same as the government is doing for private sector and public sector positions. So what would you do differently?
They aren't doing anything. You know,
your idea of a campaign was an every other day post saying we need registrars.
You know,
that is the exact same as the government is doing for public services, and as Garda Síochána have been doing forever. Okay?
I led a campaign about hiring more registrars to deliver 24-hour business, which you put in
did you deliver on the 24-hour business?
I did deliver more registrars. I did deliver registrars, but I was kicked out of the business portfolio before.
No, you were not. You could have kept that portfolio when you had coalition negotiations and instead chose Taoiseach.
I did not. Sorry, I was already given Taoiseach.
And you could have asked for business, but you didn't. You opted out.
We never discussed my portfolio until the Minister of Foreign Affairs went on leave of absence. However, the only thing that you did when you were Taoiseach was doing a public service day, which actually fell on its face. So
because I didn't host it. And once again, this is not about me. And for the people watching, this must be the only proof you need to show that Bo cannot answer a question directly given to him and laid out in front of him.
You were the one that said, I'm a fighter and not a quitter. And then, you know...
and then I quit because that was planned.
Not even 2 hours later, you sent out your resignation as you failed.
Do you think that was accidental?
As you failed to recognise that your government had appointed someone that was a media oppressor and that has significantly damaged the reputation of the Green Party.
If you knew this, if you were in the government. Why didn't you say maybe you shouldn't have done that? Because I put it in the cabinet group chat. I asked for my Taoiseach's approval, and I said, anyone have any objections? You didn't say anything.
I was not aware of what Gigam 15.
So you were oblivious to the fact that I
However,
posted a message in the cabinet group chat saying, I'm going to appoint this man.
about it.
Were you oblivious to that?
Your Taoiseach actually accepted that. You know, he allowed this
You
media
did.
this media oppressor in. So I would ask, why didn't you do a background check on him? That's the real question.
Sorry, this is getting really off topic. I don't want to stick on the fact of what Neve's done as Taoiseach.
Mm.
To bring the
Can we
subject
bring
back
Leah
into
Oh God!
yeah,
don't bring her up.
she's
And
been
put Bo
begging
down.
me. I'll quickly see what she wants.
Bo's been speaking for a while. Too much. And not answering questions. And Bo, you were very true
Right,
to your
no, I
profile
don't
picture
wanna-
and gave Caroline Levitt non-answers. So, anyways, hello, Leah. What are you here to speak about?
Nothing, it seems.
Mm.
Yeah.
Guys, I was pushed to talk.
Oh.
That was embarrassing. I'm announcing that I am going to be hosting the Big, the Beautiful, and the Great Traders Ireland. I'm going to be hosting it.
I'm not having
Bo.
advertisements on live ad.
Bo!
I'm not having live advertisements. We're bringing Bo back up.
I'm back.
Right, I would like to ask.
Oh my God! Hold on. This ain't happening. Hold on. You know, turn away on the thunder. Tell us
Right,
I'm new.
what's
Hold on, if you don't mind, I'm currently busy doing something.
right? I think I'm gonna draw the stream to a close there. We're at 8:46 p.m. and I was planning to do it before 9. So I would like to quickly thank you all for tuning in to today's stream. Don't forget to subscribe, because that apparently makes you more likely to do it. To those watching the stream, obviously. If there's anything Neve would like to say?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, well, have a wonderful rest of your night, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow on Saturday for both the Dáil and Seanad, where Neve will be allowed full reign in the Seanad, because I won't be able to present then. Anyway, again, thank you all for tuning in, and